Welcome to the Purpose to Create podcast with Natasha Wright, a business podcast for photographers and creativepreneurs who want to level up as they pursue their purpose to create. Lean in as we connect, inspire, and impact you as you build and grow your business.
I'm so hyped that you're here and listening to today's show. Today's guest is Petronella
Lugemwa,
just like P said, an international wedding and marriage proposal photography studio based out of the New York area who specializes in helping an international wedding and marriage proposal photography studio based out of the New York area who specializes in helping multicultural couples celebrate their love in a modern way. In today's episode, we're chatting about all the things because we need to catch up, but we are going to be focusing on defining your ideal client. Hey, P, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you. This is like
So excited.
catch up. This is a great episode. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited. We have been trying to catch up for a long time, and it just so happened we can catch up on this podcast, and I'm going to have a few thousand of my friends inside of our conversation. So you guys are going to be hearing a little bit of everything because I haven't seen my good friend in a while, and we need to catch up. So before we get into today's episode, Pete, tell me how you've been doing.
I've been good. We are here with this pandemic, COVID-19. I had done a lot of traveling right before. I was actually in Thailand when this first came out. And so I got to experience a little bit of it with the mask and all of that. And then traveled to Puerto Rico and was kind of like, this thing's not gonna. And then it hit. So the first week was bliss. And it was like, all right, couple more weeks. And then there was a week of sadness for sure because I had people cancel, I had people postpone their weddings. And now it's been a couple weeks later and I'm in a place of how do we pivot? What are the strengths of the business? All that good stuff. So, yeah.
All right. So you told me the fair answer in COVID related news, but I want to know how you are doing.
Oh, that's so good. I'm good. I'm good now. I'm an introvert, so this is my vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been able to connect with people like you who I haven't seen in a while, and it's been so good. So, and you're good?
I'm doing good. I too, a couple of weeks ago, I had my moments where I just, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know the days started running together. I didn't know, what am I supposed to do now? All of my clients too had to reschedule. And so I was like, I don't know what to do now, but I didn't want to I don't want to say suffer with, but I had a slight, just dealt with a little bit of depression because it's just the uncertainty of it. Right. And although I work a 9 to 5, and so things had gotten really intense with my 9 to 5 job, and then really trying to be present for my business and take a break and reset and really figure those things out. And, as an introvert myself, and I know that's a surprise, right? Like you would not think that I'm an introvert, but I am. I need a lot of quiet time to recoup, and I really need, I may be on social media like nonstop for a couple of weeks, but then I may retreat for like a week. I might be gone for 30 days. Like I just need that time to kind of decompress and take a break. But a couple of weeks ago, I just broke down because it was all so much with the news. And it's just kind of like, I can't help this. It's just tough place to watch everything going on and everything that people are going through in the world. And I just think about, homeless people and how it affects them, and do they even know, do they have access to the things? And so I think about all those things and how I can help support different, groups and communities of people who are not able to, who have access to things. And so, I struggle with that, and I struggle with even with the creative community and photographers, and really how do I help? How do I show up? I had really not had anticipated bringing a podcast back so soon. I wasn't going to bring it back into the fall because I had some other things I wanted to focus on. But then God was like, no, you need to go now. And so a couple of weeks ago, I came back with the podcast, and here we are. So I think
so proud and excited. You have no idea because we've been through each other's journey from the very beginning.
From the beginning. From the beginning.
How you start out as you were a family photographer and you were like, Petronella, then you had weddings in here sprinkled, and I was still figuring myself out as well. So I would say everything you like, what you're doing now, even as you started, and now what you're doing in terms of helping photographers in the community and with, like, it's very inspiring. Your voice is needed. Like, yeah.
Thank you. So let's flash back because you mentioned it. So I said, let's take it there. So Petronella and I call her P.
Yes.
I was like, you know what? Everybody knows you as Petronella. I kicked you off as Petronella, but for the rest of the show, I'm going to call you P because that's what I call you. So P and I have known each other, like she said, from the very beginning. And as you all know, I started out wedding photography back in 2009 as a second shooter. Mm-hmm. And P and I, that's where our paths crossed. And we have, again, really been along with each other during this journey, even though we don't get to see each other as much as we like to, but we do talk often and check in on each other and make sure that we are good. So it's been over 10 years of history with P and I. And so, like she said, you know, we've seen each other from the bottom where we were still trying to figure out who we were serving. We would spend many days and nights. We would go to conferences and say, so, you know, who are you serving? Like, I know you're a photographer, but what are you really doing? And you have to have people around you that's going to challenge you and say, you know what? You're right. What am I doing? Why am I doing this?
I totally agree. That support system is crucial. But also someone like you who, you know, we both called each other out on our businesses. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so, you know, P had then really discovered and really owned her lane and really found out who she was. And I found myself, I was still struggling to find out who I was in the industry as a photographer. Mm-hmm. And I had really never really quite figured that out because I was, you know, I fell into this comparison trap. And I say that a lot often, that don't let the comparison trap you up. Mm-hmm. And so I am a really great photographer. I love weddings.
You're incredible. Yeah.
Right. But I never knew who I was serving. I was throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping it stick. I'm a photographer. So if I put up a wedding website, which is why I'm so passionate about brand strategy now, because I know what it's like to build and grow a business. I know what it's like to fail at business. Right. So I get it. Really understanding who your ideal client is so important. That's why I'm so happy to have you on the show, because we know what it's like to mess up, have mistakes, to fail fast and fail often, and to pick yourself up and figure it out along the way. And so I feel like one of my pain points as a photographer is I never really knew who my type of bride was. I knew what I liked, but I didn't know. I always was constantly trying to figure out, hoping somebody would book me, and I would get great people to book me. And I loved everybody that I worked with, but I wanted more of them. Mm-hmm. I wanted more of them, right? I wanted more because I love working with them so much, but I never could really figure out why people were attracted to me, why people wanted to work with me. I knew it was because I did work, but what was I saying that would make them attracted to work with me? Mm-hmm. And I never could communicate that. I couldn't communicate. I could not communicate to you. And even when we had conversations, I couldn't communicate to you. I am a wedding photographer who helps multicultural clients and celebrate their love in a modern way. Yeah. Right? Like, I couldn't tell you that for myself. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, for me, my big thing was working with courageous lovers.
I remember that. I think you started out, hold on, let's back it up. You started out shooting families, and then there would be a sprinkle of a wedding here and there. And then you transitioned to courageous lover. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Transitioning to courageous lovers. And that was a shot in the dark, right? That was me just saying, okay, I was targeting courageous lovers, those who, despite life's challenges, still chose love, right? That was the audience that I wanted to work with, couples who struggled, who went through, who still pushed past the ups and downs of relationships and still decided to get married, which is why I called them courageous lovers. I wanted that because my own family unit, my mother and father divorced when I was younger. And so as a photographer, I felt like I want to do weddings so I can show that Black love still exists. And I was passionate about that, but I didn't know how to communicate that to people that would make people, because most people not going to admit that they got problems and that they push through despite life challenges. Right. So I could never connect my story to why it was important for me to capture your Black love story. Right. I couldn't communicate that. I would struggle with that. I struggled with saying, my family divorced. I'm like you too. Most Black families come from divorced parents. So most people don't want to tell that part of their story. And so I struggled with that, and I did that for a couple of years. But like I mentioned, I started out as a second shooter, right? So I was booking more second shooting weddings than I was my own weddings. Like, I was a dynamic second shooter. I still am to this day. So I then micro pivoted, right? Because I wasn't booking my own weddings like I thought. And I was booking more second shooting weddings than, the average photographer. I said, hey, well, I guess this is going to be my niche. So then I started to niche myself as a premium second shooter. And so last year, I got called to pivot from weddings to personal branding photography because it was another gap. The gap was that creatives and photographers experienced what I was experiencing. They didn't know how to show up in their own brands to attract the type of people that they wanted. So then I started doing personal branding photography because wedding professionals would come to me to get their branding images. And I had been doing that this is my 4th year doing that, but this is the first year that people are seeing that, associating me with the branding, being a branding photographer, but not knowing I had been doing it 3 years before. I didn't want to confuse my audience. So that's my own, I don't know how we get here, but
I want to add on to that. So something that you did you erased your Instagram, right? All of
that. Yeah.
So that was one way we knew there was a change. And now you are loud and proud. And I have to emphasize that as whatever it is, like, you can't just be like, hi, I'm kind of doing this. Like, it has to be like, this is what I stand for. Yay! I'm going to be different. I'm going to be the purple cow.
Exactly.
That's the only way you get noticed. And that's how you start getting the people you truly love. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You can't play on the sidelines. It's not going to work that way.
Or have your foot in 5 different buckets trying to make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to focus on the thing that's going to help you stand out in the saturated market.
Figure out your strengths and be loud and proud. And that was the thing. Like, you made an announcement. Your branding was consistent. You were consistent. That, like, some people are like, yay, new thing. And then,
and then you'll hear from them.
What happened?
Right.
Consistency. You're very consistent. And so now in everyone's mind, we're like, this is what Natasha does. She's really good at it. I would say you came over to my place many years ago. And I always remembered you were helping. I forget what you were helping me with, but remember you being incredibly organized. And there were just certain things like, I was like, she's so good at this. She's making these connections so quickly. So now to see you having taken your strength and doing what you're good at, it's like, this is her. Like, it shows. It really, really shows. Right. So I would say the takeaway tip for that for anyone else is ask your friends and family, what am I good at? What do you come to me for? Like, that's how you can start to figure out, okay, how do I define myself? Yeah.
Yeah, that's so real. Like, but it took me 10 years to get here. Last year was my 10th year, and my 10th year being a wedding photographer last year. And it took me 10 years to get to this place to say, wait a minute, I love weddings, but I don't love them no more. And it took me a long time to say that out loud. I probably should have stopped being a wedding photographer 3 years ago. Right. But I felt like people knew me as a wedding photographer, so I didn't want to confuse them. And I said, well, I built up my business on wedding photography, but, nobody's going to follow me as a branding photographer or branding strategist because I don't want to confuse them. Mm-hmm. But the one thing is I really had to get real with myself and say, okay, who is my ideal client? Mm-hmm. I had to do the work to figure that out. And I never really understood that and how important it was, right? I was one of those people who said, I don't need to know who my ideal client avatar is. In fact, I avoided filling out those questions about an ideal client avatar. Mm-hmm. Because I did not understand the purpose of why I needed to know that. Yeah. But when I got real with myself and said, if I want to show up differently in my business and if I want to do business differently, I got to do something different. I got to take a risk.
And the work.
And you got to do the work. You got to do the work. Mm-hmm. You just have to.
Yeah. So the work is defining like you said, an avatar, which I don't know if anyone knows, but it's literally describing someone in such detail that you feel like you know them. Like my avatar, young professional, likes to travel a lot, works in a metropolitan city, is in a multicultural relationship or is multicultural themselves. This is what they like to do. This is how they access their information. That's actually really cool. Critical is how are they getting their information? Like how are they volunteer, they do all this stuff. And so you put together that avatar. And for me, it was in my head initially. Like I was like, I saw a magazine and I was like, that's who I want. That's who I want. I created this whole, even grabbed Gabrielle Union's photo and was like, this is her name. This is what she looks like. I feel like this is who she is. I started there, sort of pie in the sky. And then the hard work was I started interviewing brides like her and trying to confirm, is this who she really is? Okay. I think she likes to travel a lot. And then I call up people and be like, hey, can I take you out to lunch or breakfast? Start talking to them. What was your wedding like? Why did you pick this vendor that you were working with? What was it about them that made you choose them? And then I started to pull together all these pieces that helped me define my clients. And now I really I know, I know exactly what's important to them, like what drives them. And it just makes it easier in terms of marketing. Because now I'm like, I don't need to be on Pinterest. That's not how my client is getting her information. Like, should I be part of the Young Urban League of New York professionals networking there? Yeah, that's where she's at, So, yeah, to your point, it's like shooting in the dark if you don't,
if you don't do that work to figure it out. And like you said, we have to know them intimately.
Yeah. Like, let me tell you how intimately, like I have gone hard. So I increased my pricing last year, which meant my ideal client was changing. And then, girl, I have been reading books. I've been being on Facebook, watching who's commenting and what are they saying. I've met at venues where she's getting married and I've talked to venue managers and I've been like, what is this kind of client looking for? And they've been like, ... And the funny thing is all the answers are the same. So now I know exactly what to do, what to say to attract this kind of person.
That's so key. Like I teach my coaching clients that too. Like you have to know them intimately.
Like
it is important because if you do not know them intimately, then how do you know how to communicate to them?
Exactly. But also, here's something really interesting. I've been sharing this avatar, which Gabrielle Union, it feels silly. Oh my gosh, like it has all these details and I'm happy to share it with your audience. But I've been sharing it with everyone. And now people are like, oh, I know a Gabrielle Union. I'm going to refer her to Petronella because it's so easy. Like I know someone is in interracial relationships, lives in a multicultural society, like volunteers here. Like they're like, it's easy for people to refer me because I'm not just, I do everything. And people are
like, and it helps you to stand out in a saturated market. Let's start there. It helps you stand out.
Yes, which I will say the other side of stand, because when I first started out, it's hard to stand out and be a purple cow. Like it's hard not to be posting pretty a certain kind of image that you're seeing everyone posting. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go in this completely different direction. But the thing is, people can find you easier. But it is hard. It's hard. And the other thing is, so last year with this change in my ideal clients, my past clients were referring my past ideal clients.
Yeah.
Now I have a new one. But I was very strong. I was like, this is the kind of person I do my best work with. Mm-hmm. So I said no to a lot of inquiries and money, which now in COVID time, I'm like, oh. But I also know the twin. I know, like all that money that I was like, this is not a fit.
I felt that on a deep level.
But on the real, my 2020 clients who are now 2021 because of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
I love I was like, every single person's wedding is going to be bomb. There are people who respect me. They respect my style. They respected my new pricing. All of the buttons were checked off. And so I can't wait for their weddings. But it was hard. There were months where I was like, ooh, I know if I take that wedding, I'm not even going to want to post the photos because it's not someone that lights me up, you know.
Repeat that last one again because you muffled out. Like you said, I can't wait to, and then it went out.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I can't wait for my 2020 clients. I can't wait to shoot their weddings. They're going to be 2021 clients now, but I love every single one of their weddings. I love them. I love that they respect me. They respect my style, my pricing, my process. Everything aligns. So I know I'm going to do a great job. So, and in the past, there are some people that I could have shot their wedding just because, but then I wouldn't want to share the work, or it would be stressful, or I would lose a lot of money because then they would be like, oh, let's micromanage this, you know? So,
yeah. No, I love that. And I'm so excited that we're talking about this topic because I think that it's really important. I think it's a season where we need to talk about it and redefine who our ideal clients are. And now is the perfect time for us to really look at our business and say, hey, are we really working with our ideal clients? And you mentioned something that I want to ask you about because I heard what I'm hearing is that you've redefined who your ideal client is maybe once or twice already.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when it's time for you to redefine who your ideal client is?
That's a great question. So take it back to the first time. I defined who I wanted, Gabrielle Union girl. And then I got her, like within 1 or 2 or 3 weddings, I got her and I shot her wedding and I thought it was going to be something. And I was like, I don't like this part. that was more than I wanted. We didn't jive on this part. Yep. Okay, so maybe I need to tweak this and say, or share more of this so I don't get that type of a person who was not a fit. Great wedding. Everything was amazing, but for whatever reason, wasn't a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Constantly. Or for me right now, it's, hey, I have new niece, new nephews. I want more time to spend more time with them. And in the past, I've worked with people who kept me up at night, like stressed out. Like you could see it in my body, in my face. I gained weight. And that's not worth it. Like the money's good and it's just something to fill in the blank. But so now I'm just like, I want people who light me up because I'm taking that energy back to my family, my loved ones, my friends. And if I'm like grouchy, which I used to be so grouchy and snappy, because I'm not working with people that, you know, I'm not doing what I love. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something to pause on and really say that again, because a lot of time creatives, we work with people who are not a great fit for us, and we may take them is because of the money. And sometimes it's not worth it. Like you just said, it's not worth it to work with people who are not your ideal clients. And if you're not clear on that, you'll continue to work with people who are not ideal. You'll continue to be stressed out. And yeah, you said a lot right there.
No, because it's real. I've been there.
Listen, I've been there too.
And whoever might be, I love everyone who pours and invests in me and my team and my business. I love you. But I also, there are certain conditions I do really, like all of us do really amazing work. And so you get burned. You're like, oh, I thought I like to do weddings in the mountains. Oh, nope, I don't. I had to pay for this. I had to walk here. I had to do, I'm not, okay. You
keep figuring it out. You keep trying. You keep trying until you figure out who your ideal client is. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a process.
Yeah.
Because you think that you want to work with this, which is why I love doing validation calls. I love doing them. I thought that I wanted to start a course for photographers last year. And I did some validation calls. I talked to like 20 photographers. And as I was talking to them, I was like, this is not their problem. What I wanted to help them with wasn't the problem.
I love that. So a validation call, tell us a little bit about that. Because it sounds like you just have a different word for it, but it's figuring out.
Client calls. You can do client calls. You can do questionnaires. You can
take people out to lunch, brunch.
You can take them out to lunch, to coffee. You can call it whatever you want to really, whatever you need it to be. But really talking to your people before you do it. So I'll give you a little bit of background. In my 9-to-5 job, I'm a human design specialist. And what that means is I'm a creative problem solver. And when we work on projects, we involve the consumers through the customer experience before we develop a product to validate whether or not that's the direction we need to go in.
Absolutely. I love that you said that because I worked in consumer research.
Yeah. So before we develop a product or before we work on a project, we involve the stakeholders in the process to figure out if we're going in the right direction or not. If we're not going in the right direction, we need to pivot and figure out what works so we can do something that meets the consumer's needs. And so this is how my mind works with strategy too. I implement those human design thinking strategies with my brand strategy clients because you're not going to be able to know who your ideal client is. You're not going to be able to create the service you thought you wanted created based on you, right? Like we all have a great idea. We all want to do something, but if it does not help solve a problem of your audience, then why am I even doing it?
Yes, I agree. It has to be a marriage of your strength. Because I think you can go the other way. We can be like, oh, it looks like everyone wants fast Uber Eats delivery. But is that your strength? Would you like to drive around? It has to be a marriage between your strengths and the problem that people meet. And I would say when that comes together, magic.
Magic happens, which is why you got to pay attention to your audience, what your audience is telling you they need from you. For example, when I was a wedding photographer, right? I started out second shooting and then I started my own business. I had a business partner. That business relationship failed. And then I rebranded as myself. Remember, I had that business and it didn't work out. So I felt, but I got back up and rebranded as myself, right? And when I did that, I didn't know who I was. And because I didn't know who I was, I thought that I needed a logo, a website. So I went and got a logo on a website, got my domain, right? I got it because nobody not going to tell me I'm not no wedding photographer, right? They're not going to tell me that. I don't care who you are. I don't care if this relationship didn't work out. I'm a photographer and let me go get this website. But where I messed up, I didn't know this when I started in business because nobody was there to tell me, wait a minute, slow down. Don't go throw your money at a website. I spent thousands of dollars on website updates, brand design, logos, all of that, hoping that pretty would attract people.
Quotable quote.
Listen, it didn't attract nobody. And I was struggling to get clients, right? So, but my audience didn't want me for being a wedding photographer. They needed me as a second shooter. My audience was telling me without telling me, and I was ignoring it because it was what I wanted. I wanted to be a wedding photographer. Right? I was a wedding photographer, but I was a wedding photographer for other wedding photographers, right? I'm your photographer's favorite photographer. That's who I was. That's my audience loves seeing me work with other people. My photographers that I support, the organization that you talked about, I brought that to my weddings. My clients felt supported. I worked with only premium photographers.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that about my ideal client of who I wanted to work with second shooting, but I couldn't tell you what kind of bride I wanted to work with. So anyway, my audience was telling me that's what they wanted to see from me. They loved that. Then the second, I guess, kind of coming around of it, my audience was telling me that they needed me to do their brand photos, which is the wedding industry professionals. I ignored that for 3 years because I still wanted to be something I wasn't, which was a wedding photographer. And not to say that I wasn't, but what I'm saying is your people going to tell you what they need from you.
Absolutely. And they, mad quick too.
They're gonna tell you, right? The problem that I was solving was clear with second shooting. The problem that I was solving with doing brand photos for wedding industry professionals was very clear.
Yes.
Right.
And we can see it and feel it.
Yeah, you can see it and feel it. You can see it and feel it. But I hear from that, the very thing that you're trying to run away from, that's the very thing that your client need from you.
Oh my gosh, quotable quote. Yes. The thing you're trying to hide, which for me was my multiculturalism. Is the thing.
Oh yeah, you were trying to hide it big time. I remember.
Last name, people didn't know Lugemwa, but it's the very thing that makes people attracted and love me and love you. Yeah.
Right. And when you started to tell your story more about, coming here and I want you to share your story because it matters and it's really important, right? Because a lot of people don't know how important your story is, which is why I can quote.
Yes.
Why I can quote you're a multicultural photographer who works with modern couples in, a modern way. Like I can quote that because your brand message is so clear, which is why you can get referrals that are your dream clients because your messaging is so clear. The reason why is because you know who your client is and you speaking to them and people can refer your dream-worthy clients because it's no mystery about who you're serving.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So share with us your story because I want people to understand the importance of telling your story because sometimes we run away with it like you and I both did early on in our career. But if we can talk to our younger selves, right, what would you share?
Yeah, there's beauty in your story. So for me, my story, I was born in Uganda, which is a small country in East Africa, grew up in Zimbabwe. Then I came to Birmingham, Alabama with my sister, 10 years old, yes, new world. Started off in Birmingham, Alabama, don't see a lot of diversity. I'm not seeing my culture, my heritage being celebrated. I went to an all-white school, private school, because my parents believed in education. I went there on scholarship, one of the poorest ones. It was really, really hard. I was constantly hustling to fit in. So I was trying to wear the Birkenstocks, trying to get my parents to wear those. I was talking white, quote unquote Caucasian. I didn't tell anyone my last name. And part of that was, it definitely was some racism and some people were not comfortable with foreigners. But for what that meant for me is I tried to be someone else for a long, long, long time through corporate America, when I worked in marketing. And finally, when I started my photography business, I went to a workshop because I was like, it's time for me to brand and get this right. And yes, I had learned marketing, but I needed someone for the outside to look at me and be like, what about this? This is what you need to stand for. And it was the Reichmans in Atlanta, Manta Fish Workshop. And I think it was on day 1 or day 2, my last name came up somehow. And Todd was like, what? He literally was like, I think in his head, he thought I was just a Black American girl. Yeah. And then he heard Lugemwa and he was like, what's that about? Let's dig into that. And I was like, oh, yeah. Just, don't worry about it. It's something I had been doing over and over. It was just sort of like, I am plain vanilla. Do not make me different because I didn't want to be different. I don't want to be called out. Yeah. In that minute, we dug into that. There were tears, whatever. And so then after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to stand for multicultural. But I still was like, I'm scared. No one else is doing it. This is going to be weird. Yeah. But I started to do my research because I knew market research, consumer research is important. So I started talking to other people, all cultures, all people. And I saw people were struggling with this and there was a need. I was like, oh my gosh, when you go home, do you eat this different food? Do you speak this different language? And they're like, yes. But when you go in corporate America, it looks And everyone, I kept hearing, yes, that's my experience. Yes. So I changed my website and I was like, I believe your cultural heritage is beautiful. I didn't have many pictures, didn't have a lot of experience, but that one message made people feel understood. And my people were like, me too. Where do I sign up? So yeah, that's story in a nutshell.
I think that was the turning point also in your business where everything changed when you changed your messaging to align with what you believed in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I did it loud and proud, even though some people were like, girl, this is very mad niche. Like, I don't think anyone's going to associate it with it. But I had done the homework. So I know, I was like, no, a lot of people, they're hiding, but they're there.
And I like to say that they were hiding in plain sight because they were just waiting for you to show up.
Yeah.
So they can be seen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Man. Oh my God.
You, I have been waiting for your light. I'm like, it's so beautiful to see your light shine. Like, oh my goodness. I'm like, finally the world sees what I've always seen in Natasha. Because I still remember you came over, you just, very strategic mind. Everything comes together so easily for you. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, I've been hearing this a lot lately. What comes to you easily is the thing you need to lean into, because other people, it doesn't come easy for them.
Yeah. So don't discount that. If something you're just like, oh, you can just, it's nothing.
Right. Exactly.
Like this part is, yeah. People need your voice. People need your story.
They need it. And when it does come easy to you like that, that's the thing you need to tap into and say, wait a minute. I am the best at giving unsolicited advice, right? I will own that. Like, hey, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? And I'll apologize and say, wait, I don't mean it any kind of way. But if I had an answer to something that can help you with something, why not share that with you? Mm-hmm. Right? So my friends are very used to that now, right? At first it probably was like, oh, she always butting in and saying stuff. But it's like you said, my strategic mind, sometimes it's hard to turn off, right? It's easy for me to come up with witty titles and course titles and just whatever. Like, it's easy for me to look at it and be like, oh, is this what you're trying to say? Oh, that, you know, if you share your story a little bit more, that you will attract more the type of people you want. Oh, you know that if you just get a little bit of clarity, just tweak it a little bit so you can be a little bit more specific into who you're trying to attract and who you are as a person. Like, just a little tweak. It don't take much, just a little bit. I am saying because that's what I had to do. Yeah. So I'm the best at that. I am the best at that. And I think my friends can attest to that. And they're probably saying amen. Because she's always, it can be late at night. Oh, wait, I woke up with you on my mind. What about doing this with your thing, right? Like, sometimes it's really hard to turn my strategic mind off. And I'm working better to, like, not butt in so much, but I really can't help it.
Because it's your gift. It naturally flows out. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. So before we wrap up, do you have any other just like tips that we need to know about defining our ideal client and why it's important?
I would just say do a lot of research. First, figure out what you want to be known for, and then start interviewing people to understand what are their problems, what are their fears, what are their hopes. Yeah, do that research because you're going to get the nuggets. It's going to be very clear. I actually have a worksheet, which I'm happy to share with your listeners. And I'll be creating a video. Maybe that'll help as well.
Oh, awesome.
And then talk to friends and family and ask them, like, what am I good? Like, what do you see about me that's really good? And promise, it's all going to come together. It's going to be good. And I would say, especially now with the pandemic and who knows when weddings are coming back and all of that good stuff. But keep doing it because when the time comes, it's going to make it easier for people to be attracted to you. So they won't be that lag of like, I don't know if I should go with this person or not. I don't really know. Like, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that person was talking about this, and this. I know I should. It's going to be an easy decision from anyone looking for you. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. So good.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally. And I was
like,
going to add, girl, I'm feeling the like, it's good. Yeah.
Too.
Two more things I want to share because I have been through this and I'm tapping into all my different networks. But I know some people right now are panicking with COVID. They're like, oh my gosh, how can I make income? I wanted to share 3 tips.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would love that.
Yeah. So one of them is it's okay to go through the feels, like feel it, but then create an action plan and go after it. I would say write down a list of all your different networks. That's what I did from college, church, hobbies, all the different things. People are holding webinars right now all around the world. And I have been able to get connected to super high level people that I never would be able to be connected with through webinars and hear them talk. But this is also helping me position myself. So when this is all done, they're going to be like, oh, I know Petronella. I'm going to refer her. Second thing is you need immediate money right away. Album sales, anniversaries are coming up. People are stuck at home with each other. They can't go shopping. There's Amazon, but how sexy of a anniversary gift can you get on Amazon? The best gift you can come in as a hero and say, hi, I can create an amazing album for you or some prints. You as the husband or the wife or anyone, you can be a hero for your family. You can have something in your home that's going to make you guys feel more connected. I will take care of all of this. So that's one thing. And yeah, identify your strengths and develop some, there's so many people now that I'm like, just create an educational video. I've always wanted to, you too. I'm like, I want to see how you do this process. Like, I would, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it is. I have friends who've written books. I have friends who create podcasts, friends who do all kinds of things. Like, people want that knowledge. This is the time that they're sitting at home. So do it. Doesn't need to be super fancy, but yeah.
Right.
You can get through it. Be like, there is a blessing in all of this. So start there and, yeah.
You hit the nail right on the head. Just start there. Wherever there is for you, start there.
Yeah, totally agree.
Start there. So before we go, I cannot.
One more thing. Sorry. Because I know this is also important. Finances are top of mind for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people, maybe you've sort of had an overview of how your business works or personal finances. Bola, who used to be a wedding photographer and has now created Clever Girl Finance, she now is giving her courses for free. It is no excuse not to understand any sort of question related to finance. Like, get on that.
Oh, I love that.
Right now.
Thank you for sharing that resource. Oh my God. Tell us again the name of it.
Clever Girl Finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can't let you go without you telling me about your podcast.
Oh, my podcast, which is like it. So I started a podcast so I could bring together multicultural families and couples. So my wedding photography is focused on families. And now I have a podcast which explores more this multicultural identity. And we went through 2 seasons. Should be, everyone is like, when is season 3 coming out? So it's called I Am Multicultural. It's on Instagram right now if you want to check it out there. But where I see it going, because we have so much engagement, excitement, is to growing into this platform where people can connect. And the number one need I see is people feel alone. They feel like I'm going through this, like with this person, and this community is just making people feel like I'm not alone. And I'm like, oh, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, we look forward to the next season.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see it come out. And do you have any upcoming speaking opportunities? I know you mentioned webinars and things like that. Do you have any coming up that we can support you on?
Oh, this is so wonderful. I don't. I decided to take a step back this year on speaking. But what I've decided to ramp up on is developing my YouTube channel and putting my content there and starting there, getting excited. Yeah, because I'm like, we're really good at that. Like the team is so good at that. And so taking the content that I speak on usually and then developing it to YouTube. And then in 2021, I'll come back more as a speaker. And yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome, P. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to the Purpose to Create podcast. Share, like, comment, or review this episode. Check out the show notes at www.purposetocreatepodcast.com and connect with us online at Purpose to Create.